Hello and welcome into today's edition of the Arizona State Sun Devils Insider Podcast. My name is Kevin Hicks, and I am your lead beat writer for Arizona State Sun Devils on SI. And I'm so grateful to be joining you on this beautiful Monday afternoon, following Arizona State's unfortunate, heartbreaking 24-20 loss to the Mississippi State Bulldogs on Saturday night. Obviously, the Sun Devils dropped out of the top 25, and they are not represented in the top 25 for the first time since November of last season. And it is an unfortunate time right now. There are several decisions that were made during the Sun Devils game, personnel wise, scheme wise, that just didn't end up working out for them. And it just wasn't their night in what was an absolute hostile environment in Starkville, Mississippi. But they are moving forward, and I'm looking forward to the game against Texas State. We got to talk to Coach Kenny Dillingham, obviously, today in his weekly press conference ahead of Saturday night's game against Texas State at Mountain America Stadium. And I kind of wanted to touch on some of the topics that Coach Dillingham was able to elaborate on. As we all know, he's great with the media. He always answers questions fully. He's very thoughtful, very engaging, and I wanted to touch upon three or four of the biggest topics of the press conference that we got. It lasted around 30 minutes, and without further ado, let's get into it. So, the first thing I wanted to talk about was Dillingham really being his biggest critic. He talks about how Sam Levitt is his biggest critic, is his own biggest critic. Dillingham really is his own biggest critic as well. He talked about how hindsight is second guessing. He said he after every game, whether they win or lose, he always looks back and stays awake at night thinking about what he could have done differently to make it either a more convincing victory or a victory in general instead of the being taken by the jaws of defeat. And he really just left it at, you got to live with the decisions that you made. We thought that it was a good time to dial up that play call on defense when they went cover zero. He said that they were designing it to let Mississippi State take a shot because they were sending obviously a lot of pass rush support. They wanted Blake Shapen to take his time to read a progression so they could get pressure on him and possibly sack him and end the game effectively. But that just didn't work out. Javen Robinson got beat in coverage once again, and he really talked about how that's something that they have to live with. And one of the other things, didn't really ask about it during the press conference, but Javen Robinson has been a starting cornerback with the Sun Devils since last season. He struggled on Saturday night. That's okay to admit. He's a great player, but Rodney Bimage Jr. was playing very, very great football out there. He was aggressive in terms of tackling. He was sure in terms of tackling. He was breaking his assignments the right way. No missed assignments from him that counted. And that's another decision that they're going to have to live with as well. But they are just moving forward, heads held high. And that's a perfect segue into what Sam Levitt is dealing with. Sam Levitt just had the worst game of his collegiate career on Saturday night, 82 yards passing on only 10 completions, threw 2 interceptions, including the game-losing interception. But Coach Dillingham talked about how him and Sam are still very much in line with each other in terms of their approach, how Sam's spirits are still high, how he's still confident. And Dillingham, like I said, he's his biggest critic. He talked about how he has to put Levitt in position to be comfortable, to ease him into the game script, to keep him from being flustered by what we saw at Mississippi State, because we all know Sam Levitt's a great quarterback, and Dillingham said that he wouldn't want to do it with any other quarterback in the nation right now other than Sam Levitt. And that's a ringing endorsement from a guy. He mentioned how 3 years ago, 2022 season opener against Georgia as the Oregon offensive coordinator, Bo Nix had one of the worst games of his time at Oregon, probably the worst game of his time at Oregon, against Georgia, and how Dillingham owned up to not putting him in a position to succeed, and talking about how that was one of the ugly games of his coaching career and how he really looks to grow out of that. And it's very, very fascinating to see a coach as great as Dillingham really being as self-deprecating as he is at times. He's really, really confident in the team he has, but he's always taking ownership for when the team falls short. He's always looking to improve one way or another. He's always thinking about how to manage a game differently the next time. He's always learning from his mistakes, and Sun Devil fans should still feel phenomenal about what they have in Coach Dillingham, and that is just a testament to the guy he is, to the head coach he is, to the roster manager he is. And that's a perfect segue into the next point I wanted to go into. He was asked about his ties with Texas right now, including having Brian Carrington on the Arizona State staff as DB's coach. He talked about the importance of winning these games against Texas teams. For their next 5 games are against Texas teams. They play Texas State this week, Baylor next week in the conference opener, TCU at home, and the Texas Tech at home with Utah in between all of them. And obviously, Texas is a major target for the Sun Devil program in terms of recruiting, and it's going to be very, very crucial to attack that program, that state as a program. The Sun Devils have already 8 commits from the 2026 class in the state of Texas, and they will obviously bring in more visits during those times. So it will be fascinating to see how Coach Dillingham approaches recruiting coming off those games. And closing off today's show, I really wanted to discuss how Coach Dillingham talked about Texas State as an opponent and Keyshawn Elliott. Keyshawn Elliott had a great, great game. He accounted for several of their 6 tackles for loss. Dillingham really paraded on him as one of the strongest players on the Arizona State team, how he gave him his flowers for how hard he works. And that is great when you look at the Sun Devil defense and you have a lot of players that you can point to as true leaders of the defense, as hard workers and everything in between. And yeah, the Sun Devils are in a great place. Texas State is going to be challenging. They're a very talented team, as Dillingham has said. J.G. Kinney is one of the best coaches in the country, according to him. They are a big physical team, and you can't sleep on them. And as we saw last year, they very, very nearly won or against Arizona State at home in what was one of the biggest games in the history of that program. So we'll see what happens with them over the next week. The Sun Devils still should be in position to win and rebound from Mississippi State, but only time will tell what happens ultimately. And that is all I have for today. Thank you so much for tuning in today. As each and every day, your support means the absolute world to me. Thank you so, so much, and I will see each and every one of you tomorrow. Please follow me on X/Twitter at khicks_21 if you get the chance to do so after the show, and now I will see you tomorrow.